Pope Leo XIV was elected the 256th Pope of the Catholic Church, and he is the first American cardinal to become Pope. He took his first ecclesiastical visit to Turkey on board the ITA flight to Turkey on board the Fligth. He had an interactive section with his press crew. He explained the very reason why he, the head of the Catholic Church, chose Turkey, a Muslim nation, for his first official trip. He added that he is carrying the message of peace and unity to Turkey.
It's so important today that the message be transmitted in a way that really reveals the truth and the harmony that the world needs. And in a special way, this particular trip to Turkey and to Lebanon has, as you know, first of all, the very meaning of unity, celebrating 1700 years from the Council of Nicaea. And I very much have been looking forward to this trip because of what it means for all Christians.
Holy Father, you said a couple months ago that there is a learning curve to being Pope. Can you, and when you arrived at Harissa yesterday with the warm welcome, it looked like you said, wow. Can you tell us sort of what you're learning? What's the most difficult thing to learn for you in being Pope? And you haven't told us anything either about what it felt like in the conclave when kind of it became clear what was happening. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, my first comment would be that just a year or two ago, I too thought about retiring someday. You've received that gift, apparently. Some of us will continue to work. The conclave itself, I believe very strictly about the secret of the conclave, even though I know there have been public interviews where some things were revealed. I said to a reporter the day before I was elected, she caught me on the street. I was going to lunch across the street at the Augustinians, and she said, well, what do you think? You've become one of the candidates. And I simply said, everything is in the hands of God. And I believe that profoundly. One of you, there's a German journalist on here who said to me the other day, tell me one book besides St. Augustine that we could read to understand who Prevost is. And there's several I've thought of, but one of them is a book called The Practice of the Presence of God. It's a very simple book by someone who doesn't even give his last name, Brother Lawrence. Read it many years ago. But it describes, if you will, a type of prayer and spirituality where one simply gives his life to the Lord and allows the Lord to lead. And if you want to know something about me, that's been my spirituality for many years. In the midst of great challenges, living in Peru during years of terrorism, being called to service in places where I never thought I would be called to serve to, I trust in God, and that message is something that I share with all people. So what was it like? I resigned myself to the fact when I saw how things were going that I said this could be a reality. I took a deep breath. I said, here we go, Lord. You're in charge, and you lead the way. I don't know that I said wow last night, in the sense my face is very expressive, but I'm oftentimes amused by how the journalists interpret my face. Serious. I mean, it's interesting. Sometimes I get, like really great ideas from all of you because you think you can read my mind or my face. And it's not, you're not always correct. But, I mean, I was at the Jubilee for Youth where there were over 1 million young people there. Last night was a small crowd. It's always marvelous to me. I mean, I think to myself, these people are here because they want to see the Pope. But I say to myself, they're here because they want to see Jesus Christ. And they want to see a messenger of peace, in this case in particular. So to just listen to their enthusiasm and to hear their response to that message is something that I think is, that enthusiasm is awe-inspiring. And I just hope I never get tired of appreciating everything that all these young people are showing.
Interesting trip. You just talk about continue to build bridge between different worlds. And I like to ask, some Catholics in Europe believe that Islam is a threat to a Christian identity of the West. Are they right? And what will you say to them?
All of the conversations that I had during my time both in Turkey and in Lebanon, including with many Muslims, were precisely concentrated on the topic of peace and respect for people of different religions. I know that, as a matter of fact, that has not always been the case. I know that in Europe there are many times fears that are present but oftentimes generated by people who are against immigration and trying to keep out people who may be from another country, another religion, another race. And in that sense, I would say that we all need to work together. One of the values of this trip is precisely to raise the world's attention to the possibility that dialogue and friendship between Muslims and Christians is possible. I think one of the great lessons that Lebanon can teach to the world is precisely showing a land where Islam, Christianity are both present and are respected, and that there is a possibility to live together, to be friends. Stories, testimony, witnesses that we heard even in the past 2 days of people helping each other, Christians with Muslims, both of whom had their villages destroyed, for example, of saying we can come together and work together. I think those are lessons that would be important also that we heard in Europe or North America, that we should perhaps be a little less fearful and look for ways of promoting authentic dialogue and respect.
First of all, thank you so much for granting us this opportunity as the only Lebanese media to accompany you on your first foreign trip. Before my question, this is a gift from the LBCI Lebanon family. It was drawn live on TV while you were moving from one stop to the other. This is you, and these are the different stops. You can see Our Lady of Lebanon, Saint Charbel, the Beirut port, every stop, every notable stop. So really, we thank you so much for blessing us with this opportunity. On the back, you can find a heartfelt appreciation by our chairman of the board and his wife, Pierre and Randa Daher. They are really thankful for this opportunity. It was painted live on air while you were moving from one stop to the other. Back to my question, Your Holiness. You are an American Pope leading a peace process. You're on a peace mission in the region. My question is, will you use your connections with President Donald Trump, with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and you've stated on the plane before that the Vatican is friends with Israel. Will you raise the need to halt Israeli aggressions against Lebanon? And is sustainable peace achievable in the region?
First of all, yes, I believe sustainable peace is achievable. I think that when we talk about hope and we talk about peace and we look to the future, we do so because I believe it is possible that peace once again come to the region, come to your country, to Lebanon. In fact, I've already, in a very small way, begun a few conversations with some of the leaders of places that you have mentioned, and I would intend to continue to do that personally or through the Holy See, because the fact is that we do have diplomatic relationships with most of the countries through the region, and it would be our hope certainly to continue to raise that call for peace that I spoke of at the very end of the Mass today.
When asked about his motto, in the When We Are One, hear his response.
And one in Turkish. First of all, I would like to thank you for giving time for the Lebanese people. I am myself a child of war, and I know how much it means to have a hug from Your Holiness, a tap on the shoulder, and saying everything is gonna be okay. And what struck me is your motto, Your Holiness. Your motto. It says in the One, we are one. This motto speaks of building bridges between different Christian denominations, between religion, and also across neighbors that sometimes can be a bit difficult. So my question is, from your own perspective, what unique gift does unique gift does the church in the Middle East, with all its tears and wounds and challenges and past history, can give the church in the West and the world?
Okay. Let me preface my response by saying that today, people who grew up in a very individualistic society, young people who passed a very significant amount of time during the pandemic because of COVID, and whose personal relationships are oftentimes very isolated in reality because they're only through computer screens or smartphones. They ask sometimes, why should we want to be one? I'm an individual and I don't care about others. And I think there's a very important message here to say to all people that unity, friendship, human relationships, communion are extremely important and extremely valuable. If for no other reason than the example you mentioned about someone who has lived through war or has suffered and is in pain, what an embrace can mean to them. What that human, very human, real, healthy expression of personal care can do to heal the hearts of someone else. On a personal level, that can become, if you will, a common level, a community level that unites all of us and helps us understand that respect for one another goes far beyond you keep your distance, I'll stay here and you stay there, and we'll have no interaction. But it means building up relationships that will enrich all people. With that message, certainly my motto is primarily because of Christ. In Ilo is in Christ, who is one, we are all one. But it's not defined, if you will, only for Christians. And as a matter of fact, is an invitation to all of us and to others to say, the more we can promote authentic unity and understanding, respect, and human relationships of friendship and dialogue in the world, the greater possibility there is that we will put aside the arms of war, that we will leave aside the distrust, the hatred, the animosity that has so often been built up, and that we'll find ways to come together and be able to promote authentic peace and justice throughout the world.
Grazie Santità, grazie per questa sua risposta e per queste sue risposte.
He received various gifts from some of the journalists traveling with him on this first apostolic trip, including this special one, a baseball bat. He also received the coat of arms of his great-great-grandparents from Cantabria in Spain. Excitement grew among the crew, the journalists, and all the staff accompanying the Pope on his first trip. The plane took off from Fiumicino Airport at 7:30 p.m. in Ankara, Turkey time. There, Pope Leo was received by the Apostolic Nuncio to Turkey and several authorities. After the welcome, he traveled to the Ataturk Mausoleum, the first official visit scheduled on the trip's agenda. Under the motto, One Lord, One Faith, One Baptism, on the morning of Thursday, November 27th, Pope Leo XIV's first apostolic journey began. In doing so, the Pope fulfills the wish of his predecessor, Pope Francis, to visit Turkey to celebrate the anniversary of the Council of Nicaea, marking 1700 years.
The theme of Papal's visit to Turkey is one Lord faith and one baptism, while the theme of his visit to Lebanon is blessed at the peacemakers. Please encourage us by subscribing to our channel. God bless you.